I want to know your expertise or maybe your domain of work or domain of study that can help me to include right set of examples when I'm trying to explain the insurance analytics. So if you can give all of that into the chat, that would be very helpful. Good morning, everyone. I see 22 people right now. We'll just wait for a few minutes. 11:05 we'll start. Hope my voice is clear and there is no reverberation that you're saying, or there is no echo that is coming. Great. I see people who are from teaching background, who are working in IT, who are working in computer science, studying computer science. So if you can give me your area of interest, right? Maybe for example, if you take commerce, right? So taxation can be one of my, forte, or maybe one of my expertise. If you take computer science, maybe algorithms is my expertise, something like that. So if you can just name those things, that will be very helpful. We'll just wait for 1 minute more and we will start with the session. Good morning, everyone. You can send this link to your friends as well, because this particular use case is really very important. I'm going to explain why it is, what kind of jobs you can get, and what kind of companies in India and abroad are into insurance analytics, and why this is useful. And getting a job into insurance analytics is more easier as compared to any other any other analytics kind of jobs, right? I'll tell you why and the reason behind it, basically. Good morning, all. So let's start with today's session. Right, we waited for 5 minutes, and now let's start with the session. The reason why we are taking insurance analytics today is because there are five major domains that prevail in the market. One is banking, second is finance, third is any type of services, and fourth is insurance. Now, let's take a simple example. Let's say that you are working for a company and you have been given a job which directly impacts the revenue of the firm, right? How much revenue does it generate? What is most important for a business is their customers and the related revenue that they generate, the related profit that they generate, right? Now, when you work for any firm and you are into a position where you take decisions that can impact your revenue at a higher scale, then your job is basically very crucial, right? And the salary that you will get at that level of decision making, which will impact the revenue of the company, is high, right? So, similarly, any economy is built basis four pillars that I explained. Right? But why is insurance really that important? Reason why insurance is very important is because insurance generates lot of revenue that caters to the GDP of that particular. What happens in this case is in countries like US, insurance is compulsory for each and every person. Right now, India is also making it compulsory. But with the great value comes great risk. What happens is, I'll give you a small story. The story is there's a place in India where there are a lot of insurance frauds that happen, right? And the story is like this. There is a family who has lost a dear one recently, right? Maybe recently, I mean 6, 7 months back. And they were standing near a morgue. And there was an insurance agent who was standing. I will not name the company insurance agent's firm, but was standing near the morgue and is basically looking at families who are coming in to take once. Went to a family and said, "Hey, if you sign this particular document, I can give you 30 lakh rupees." Now, the family thought, "Hey, how is that possible? How anyone can give 30 lakh rupees just for the body?" She asked, the lady asked, because her husband had died, "Okay, I'm okay with it, but can you tell me what you're going to do?" He said, "You just don't worry about it. I'll help you out with getting this money, right? And I'll give you initial some token amount, maybe 5 lakh rupees, and after some time I'll give the rest of the money." Then he took the signature photograph, right, of the dead person, right? So you must be thinking, how did the dead person sign? Now he created a film, right? And this agent, if you see, right, the insurance agent is not an employee of that particular insurance company. He's just an agent. Now what he did is he created a policy which was worth 2 crore rupees, and the premium that you had to pay for that, or he had to pay for that, is 18,000 or 25,000, something like that, per year. Right? He filed that particular policy, and the insurance company said, "Okay, let's get a medical done." Right now, the insurance company does not know that the beneficiary uh, has created this entire thing with the agent, and the insurer, that means the person who is being insured, that particular person is already died because an employee of that particular company. Now, once the insurance policy came for a medical checkup, this agent went to a panel doctor, and said, "Hey, I'll give you 30 lakh rupees. Can you please sign this document? And I'll give you 5 lakh now, like after 3 years." Then the doctor said, "Okay, fine, I can do that." And all of this is fraud. Okay. And this agent submitted the claim for that policy after 3 years from the date of issuance. Now, what IRDA says is any policy whose claim has come after 3 years cannot be scrutinized heavily. If the claim comes to the insurance company thinks it's a probably a realistic claim, not a fraud claim, and has to pay the money. Now imagine if these kind of frauds happen regularly. Don't you think the insurance company will be bankrupt? Imagine you just paying 18,000 rupees per policy for 3 years, or maybe 20,000 rupees for 3 years. You're summing up around 60,000 rupees, and you are getting benefited for 2 crore. These kind of frauds need to be. Imagine you work for a company which helps the insurance company to save 2 crore rupees. Don't you think that job would be very crucial? Right? So that is one of the use cases. So today I'm going to talk about 7 to 8 different types of use cases that insurance companies use with respect to the analytics domain that I'm going to talk about. Right? Now this is one use case. There are two key questions. If you see the slide, there are two key questions that I'm going to talk about. One is, how do you identify the potential insurance buyers? So the first use case, the story I told you, was typically for fraud analytics, right? But there are 10 to 15 more use cases or problems that insurance analytics solves. Now let's come back to that particular questions that I have mentioned here. First is, how do you identify potential insurance buyers? Whom this question will help? All those agents who are working, I can target these agents to right set of customers whom I feel would end up buying the policy. That is question number one. Question number two is, how do we improve the operations in insurance to reduce risk of customer journey? Now imagine that you are going to take a policy of some company, maybe XYZ, right? You fill up all of your documents, and the amount of time that's required for the entire process of creating a policy for you is like 10 days. So you can live with that 10 days. That is okay, after 10 days I'm going to get my policy. I've already paid 18,000 rupees check. I check, I have paid it. Now after 10 days, when you call the insurance company, nobody is responding. They're saying it's going to take some time. And again they say it's going to take some time. Now, if it crosses more than the number of days, I mean, you wanted it urgently, right? And it takes more than 3x the time, you typically will lose the interest in that particular company and would like to shift to someone else. And you say, you will tell the parent company to whom you have submitted the documents, you'll basically go ahead and say, hey, please cancel my policy. I would like to buy a policy from somewhere else. That's the thing. So second question helps you to understand what kind of problems happen within process of buying an insurance policy and how can you reduce the amount of time so that your customer does not leave. Hope everyone understood what kind of use cases or problems are present in insurance analytics. Let's go one by one. Insurance in India. I'm going to talk about insurance in India, right? So you'll have multiple set of types of insurance that you can see. One is motor insurance, right, for your vehicles. One is right? Health insurance would be basically, right, it will be around 7,000 to 8,000 per month. It will be around to 8,000 or maybe 10,000 per year. And you will be benefited for 5 lakh rupees, right? So that is a standard insurance policy that we have. Travel insurance, you're going from here to Bangalore, here to US, anywhere, your entire baggage and everything is insured. So whenever you buy property in India, it typically, and this is there in US as well, I'm just trying to explain what are there in India. So when you win properties, when you buy this property, what happens is there is a document that gets attached with it, which helps you to basically. So let's take an example. Let's say you buy a policy, a plot in Goa or a flat in Goa, right? And when you buy that particular flat, maybe banks like HDFC, ICICI will come up and say, "Hey, why don't you insure your house?" What that means is when let's say for example, God forbid you the actual owner of that particular flat dies, then the family doesn't have to pay the EMIs and stuff. They just have to basically claim that to the right insurance company, and the company is going to pay the corresponding loan bank the entire amount. That's property insurance. Mobile insurance. So previously you used to get mobile like 2,000. Everybody wants to buy a mobile phone which costs like 15,000, 25,000, 30,000, right? When your mobile phones are getting costlier, each and every mobile phone comes with mobile insurance, right? If you take iPhone 10, you can basically opt for that mobile insurance. A lot of people don't opt, but you can, right? Next is cycle insurance. So like mobile phones, right? Cycles were cheaper long back. But if you want to even have a 5 gear cycle nowadays, it is going to cost you 10 to 12,000 rupees, right? So that's the most important. These are the two. 6 and 7 are the most newly available insurances that you can find. Next is bite size insurance. So bite size insurance are called sachet insurance as well, wherein they can give you insurance for like 15,000, 20,000, certain products, certain for a limited timeline. you can get insured and all those. That's called bite-size insurance, right? I'll give you an example of bite-size insurance. So let's say, for example, that you want to buy a small jewelry, right? And you want a timeline for that. Maybe from the first month till the 10th or 12th month, I need insurance for this. After this, anything happens, I don't mind, right? So for small products, for small work that you do, right, you can have insurance. The last one and the most important one is the life insurance, or let's call it term insurance. So if somebody takes a term insurance, basically pays the premium every year, but if anything happens to that particular person, then the entire amount will be given to the family. There is no cashback for this insurance, or maybe after 5 years the value will mature and then you will get back the money, nothing like that. Term insurance means you're just giving the money to the company. Anything happens to you, the beneficiary is going to get the money, right? So the reason why I explained the first one as the last one is because this is the most important one, and I want you to concentrate more on the life insurance policies, because most of the jobs, most of the use cases, most of the problems come from life insurance. And I'll tell you the reason. If you see rest of all the insurances except maybe property insurance, right, do not have a very high sum assured amount. I'll tell you what is sum assured. Sum assured means anything happens to you, right, or anything happens to the product that you're using or the mobile phone that you're using or anything, you will get that particular, right? Now, if you see all of the other insurances except property and life insurances, rest of the insurances are do not have a very high sum amount, sum assured amount, right? But property and life insurance have. So typically, a person whose salary is like 1 lakh rupee per month goes for a life insurance of 2 crore rupees, because he or she can end up buying or paying basically 30,000 or 25,000 a year, right? And 25,000 is basically a yearly premium that you pay for that 2 crore thing. Okay, and what are the use cases? So this one, what I explained, is basically your type of insurance policies and are the use cases. Now you can relate to each one of the use case. I'll start from the right. At first, I'll try to explain about fraud detection. Right, I gave a very good story and an example. It's not a story. It's a real thing that has happened. Right. So fraud detection. Who are basically creating issues for the insurance company, fake claims, and all those things. Right. Next is price optimization. Now, if you have seen PolicyBazaar.com, you can find like 100 different types of policies from 25 different companies. Now, when you get that particular kind of choosing point that you have like 15, 20 companies coming to you and saying, hey, why don't you buy me this much? The price of each and every policy needs to be optimized. If you give good number of features with good reputation at lesser price, then people will end up buying your product. Obviously, you should not devalue your product. Correct? Okay, so price optimization is the most important thing. Next, personalized marketing. Now, let's say, for example, if you get an option to customize your insurance policy, what I is that you cannot pay a monthly premium, but your insurance company should allow you to pay a yearly premium. Correct? You want your base, insurance. Maybe let's say insurance be XYZ, or you want the insurance, company location, or maybe location where you want to do all the transactions need to be this, right? So there are various different ways in which you can optimize your insurance policy or customize your insurance policy. Now imagine that there is a company which gives you a tailor-made insurance policy, that you can pay this amount monthly or yearly, whatever you like. You can basically do these 5 things, right? Five, let's say if you take a medical insurance, right, you can add these 3 4 diseases. There are insurance companies which allows you to basically go ahead and insure yourself even if you have an existing disease, right? So if some company helps you to give those personalized tailor-made insurance policies, that can help doing personalized marketing. So a company can say that, okay, I can be very flexible in terms of the type of the insurance that I give, and also I can perfectly match your needs. Next one that I will talk about is customer segmentation. Now imagine you want to get you're working for an insurance company and you want right set of customers for you. Imagine there's a place and in that locality minimum salary of a person is around 1.5 crore per year. Will you sell an insurance policy whose worth is 50 lakh rupees in that location? If I am the insurance company employee, I will never do that. So you need to segment your customers based on their annual income, right? Based on maybe what work they are doing, based on a lot of other things, right? So if you basically go for, or if you're working for civil aviation industry, you have a different set of hazardous insurance that companies give, right? So you need to understand the behavior of the customer, salary of the customer, nature of work, and basis that you should segment your customers. Next point is lifetime value prediction. Now, everyone must be knowing there is something called a surrender in the policy. So let's say you take an insurance policy, and if you don't like the service, what you can say is, okay, after 3 years, okay, let me surrender the policy, give me some money back. Now, every company has to understand that we need to get the lifetime value of that particular customer. That means, if let's say, for example, XYZ person takes an insurance policy, and this XYZ person is going to be there with the company 3 years, next 4 years, next 5 years, next 10 years. Basis this lifetime value, whenever the company feels that this event go, then automatically company will call you up and ask, hey, is there any problem, any issue, and all those. So predicting the lifetime of a customer is also very much important. Next is recommendation engines. Now, if you see policybazaar.com, you just select certain options that I want for 1 year, what is the premium and what are the details and everything, and you give your salary and everything. System will automatically try and predict or find out what might be correct for you and will give you an output. Now, that is called a recommendation engine. Next is underwriting. Whenever you file an insurance policy or you fill up details to buy an insurance policy, these documents go to the insurance company and they try to understand and analyze if you should be given the policy or not. Now, the decision of giving your policy happens at an underwriting stage, right? So, that particular timeline is called underwriting. So, if you have to be given the policy or should not be given the policy, analytics can help you do that. Next is risk. Risk assessment means for every policy, there is a risk assessment done. Saying that, okay, what is the, where is the location of this particular person? Were there any frauds before? Okay, has this particular person's family extension did any fraud? All of those things are captured here. Next is basically claim predictions. Claim prediction means, as I said, that is the most important part of analysis as well. Claim prediction means, are there any early claims? Are people claiming before 3 years? Are people claiming, immediately after 3 years? That means 3 years, 2 days, 3 years, 3 days, right? So predicting that or forecasting that is very important. Last one is automating live event marketing, right? Now here they want to understand your frequent purchases online, what is your purchase pattern. They will do some initial research about you. They will try to understand what kind of products we have searched and all those. So if you see in this use case, if I want to group it at a higher level, fraud detection, underwriting, risk assessment and claim predictions come under one bucket. Lifetime event marketing, personalized marketing, right, come under one. Recommendation systems, customer segmentation come under one. Lifetime value prediction is individual, and price optimization is individual. Hope you understood this particular slide very well, right? And this will be there on YouTube. So you can basically, if you want to go through it again, you can just go through that. Now I'm going to basically try and explain how to solve a data science problem. In the previous session, I was not able to explain this particular part, so I wanted to take a hit at it, so that everyone understands how you exactly solve a business problem or insurance analytics problem or a data science problem in general, right? So when any problem comes to you, let's say for example, it's an insurance analytics problem or analytics problem or a software engineering problem or a business problem or a marketing, whatever problem kind of problem comes, understand the business first. Why is the client coming to you and saying that, hey, I have a problem, I want you to solve it? Always, first point, always research about your client. Or maybe if you're trying to solve an academic problem, try to understand why the paper initially was written. Why was the research paper written at the first place? If you're working right now or you're studying, try to think what kind of problems the customers are facing, clients are facing, right? The best example, if you want to see, is search the top 5 companies in India and just types analytics case study. You will find a lot of white papers that are available for all of these companies. You can just basically go and do that. But whenever you want to solve a typical data science problem, always understand the client, right? First, what kind of business the client does, what is the revenue stream, how does the client earn the money, how solving this particular problem would impact the revenue stream of your client. All of those things are very much important. Second, ask the right questions. Once you understand the business and the problem statement very well, you ask the right questions. What I mean by right questions is basically that you need to understand how your problem statement or the problem statement basically given by the client will impact the revenue stream. What are the key performance indicators of that, right? How will you find out? How will you quantify? So tomorrow the client says, hey, your project is not good. He or she should be able to defend that. Or if you go back to the client and say, hey, I have improved your business from X to 10X, that is a quantifiable measure. So you need to ask the right questions to the customer, to your client, so that you will end up basically taking that particular, explaining that how much effort you have put and how much good things have happened to your client. Last one is finalize the problem statement. For any academic problem, business problem, IT related problem, finalize the problem statement. Bring your stakeholders, your clients, your senior managers, or maybe your guides. If you're doing PhD, your guides have to come to a single point agenda. Saying that, okay, this is my problem statement. This is what I'm going to solve, right? So that tomorrow you will not deviate from that particular topic. So what happens if you do not finalize the problem statement in the initial phase, you might deviate here and there, and then your project will not get over, you will not understand the right impact. So the first pointer is research and business logic. Second is identify and get the data needed. Now, once you have finalized the problem statement, you basically know what kind of features or data is required for your problem, right? And how you will be discussing it with your guide, with your client, with your external stakeholders, and all those. If you do not finalize the data, the client can come up and say, hey, I had this already. Why didn't you use it? Right? So, but there's one most important point. If you ask the right questions, your client knows that you have understood the problem very well and will point you to the right direction where you get the data perfectly fine. That's the most important thing. Next most important thing is try and understand that your business problem is not one problem. It might be an amalgamation of hundreds of problems. So you have to subdivide or break any of your problem statement. I'll give an example. If you take fraud analytics, so the problem statement or the title is prediction of insurance fraud basis early claims. Now it is not just black and white, fraud, not fraud. The outcome might be like that, but there are various problems that you talk about. Is the region important? Is the salary of the person important? What is important in this problem? So you need to break down that problem into smaller parts, right? That is most important. And once you break down the problem into smaller parts, you automatically know what kind of data you require. And you can targetedly ask your client or talk to your guide that, okay, if I have this particular data set, then I can end up solving the problem. That is your identify and get the data needed. Third one is understand and enrich the data. That means once you get the data, you have to see that you don't have any blank values, null values, or maybe so what I have seen in my past experiences, not exactly insurance, but other places as well, that if there's a column called time in your data, right? Some of the people who must have manually entered will change month to day, day to month format. So the time format will change, right? Now, if the time format changes, the entire project goes haywire. So all of these analysis, seeing if the data is proper or not, or cleansed or not, is very much important. Next one is define the KPIs and the right algorithms. Now, if you go to the client and say, hey, I will have this KPI. So I'll just explain you what is KPI. Now, let's say, for example, that you are working for Amazon, okay, and there are billions of people, or millions of people rather, who come to your website every day, right? And there are only maybe 1 lakh plus people who end up buying. That means people come, they don't buy, and the percentage is very low. The buying percentage is very low, right? Now, the buying percentage will tell you how good your business is. If any particular variable or an equation can help you understand your business and see what impacts the revenue stream of the business or the outcome that your client wants, it is called key performance indicators. Now, for Amazon, the key performance indicator is what? Number of people buying divided by total number of people coming on your website. That is one KPI. Like that, you will have hundreds of KPIs, right? You have to define the KPI. So if you define the KPIs, everything is going to be very smooth, right? Then you have to define the right algorithms. When you use analytics, right, there are few algorithms that you use. Like say for example, supervised, unsupervised, semi-supervised, like that. Set of algorithms or family of algorithms. So you need to be precise on what kind of algorithm has to be used. The reason being that if there are 100 algorithms, the researchers use 100 algorithms basis some requirement. So every algorithm has a different feature, a different flavor to it. So if you do not understand the problem statement very well, you cannot finalize the right set of algorithms. Right? Last one is showcasing the end results. Now, when you showcase the end results to maybe your guide, maybe your client, now guide obviously will understand your use case, your problem, and give you the right suggestion. Right? You can talk technical terms with your guide, but when you go to the client, right? Clients may not know core technical aspects. You cannot go back and say that, hey, I have used support vector machines or I have used random forest for solving the problem. They will not understand that. So how crisp and fine would be your communication is most important. So the client communication needs to be more presentable and less technical. So it will be more business, and your slides or your presentation should just contain the business impact that you have given using your algorithms. Next one is the most important thing in data science. This particular slide you will not find anywhere on the internet or anywhere on YouTube videos, right? So this particular slide tells you the entire background or entire plethora of how to solve a business problem, right? What are the key things that need to be put? And this exercise has to be performed by every researcher, every student, and every professional who wants to solve analytics problems. So if you see left hand side, so first is the most important question. How do we identify potential insurance bias? This is the key question that you have. And this slide is called as problem definition structure, right? First is background. What are we doing? Correct? So if you clearly see, it says to acquire managerial insights to create competitive strategies useful for making business decisions. Within that, you're talking about potential buyers, right? Next would be stakeholders. For which company you're trying to do, right? And what is the team structure of the company to whom you're working with? Next is current condition. What is the current problem? Are they having less number of potential buyers? What is the use case? Do you want to improve the total number of people who end up buying the policy? Are you trying to reduce fraud? All of those will come here. Next is root cause analysis. What do you think is the core problem because of which the project has come to you? What is the major issue that these people are facing? Right? All of those things, basic analysis from the business will come on the left hand side. Right hand is basically solutions. If you see, there are various ways to define the solution. So in my next sessions, I'll be explaining these entire problem definition structure more detailed. But this is how you structure any problem, even if it is analytics, non-analytics, any problem. Folks, please use this problem definition structure very well, right? So when you do operational research or you do research methodology, you will have this, but all will be in bits and pieces. What I try to do here is bring all of them together. So if you read through this, if you see the solutions, right, you will find that I'm talking about difficulty matrix, criteria decision matrix, root cause analysis, right, communication plan. All of these things are very much important, like impact wheel. All of these are important to basically come up with the right solutions, right? So these are small tools that we can use to solve any business problem, right? The most important way to solve a business problem is take your team, take your set of researchers, group of students, and try to do a brainstorming session. If teachers are there in this particular session, I would request you maybe cater at least 2 to 3 hours in an entire semester, or maybe 5 hours in an entire semester, so that you make the students sit in a group and brainstorm on multiple set of problems. So you can have group A solving this problem, group A solving problem A, group B is solving problem B. Try to make silos and tell them to brainstorm. Think of an idea, put it on a paper, right? All of those things will help you get the solution. Next is action items. Now I'll tell you, this particular slide is always sent to a client, right? Because this will help you to understand what you're doing, why you're doing, what is the current problem, how are you solving it, and how are you measuring the accuracy, or how are you measuring the impact that your solution is giving. Means, how are you going to give the results to the end client? How are you going to give, right? Are you going to basically go ahead and provide them with a tracker after 30 days, 60 days and all? Or uh, are you going to basically go ahead and define the progress? How are you going to communicate the results at the end? All of those basically are present here. So this slide is very much important. After the session, please go through this slide in depth. Next, as I told you, what was the first question that we had? How do insurance companies generate leads? Correct? What are the ways? Now, if you see the slide carefully, you find that there are different ways you can get your customers. One is through referrals, second is through advertising, third is through events, fourth is through online marketing. How will you get insurance customers, right? So if you see here, I have noted how are referrals coming? Direct requests. That means, let's say I am an insurance buyer and I basically go ahead and tell my friend that, hey, why don't you buy this insurance policy? So he goes and goes directly to the office or that particular retailer or a partner's place where you can go and buy the insurance. Second is partnership. So you'll have a lot of dealerships and stuff. Next is network development. That means sometimes it's referral type itself, but let's say for example that I buy an insurance policy, and if I refer you to buy the insurance policy, I get some money back. Referral groups. So sometimes what happens, you will have an entire group which does this referral activity. Or registration. Let's say I want to buy a policy, I will go with you with the insurance policy, and then I'll do that particular partner side, and then basically I will be going ahead and buying insurance with you, right? Next is incentives. So if you buy an insurance policy, you get a mobile phone or something like that. Next is advertising, right? Advertising basically would be newspaper advertising that comes, right? Next is maybe through yellow pages. Next is basically through radio advertisements, TV advertisements, all of those, right? And you can also have scholarships, information through information booklets and all those. Third is events. Have you ever seen an insurance seminar? There are a lot of places where insurance seminar goes on. They'll try to explain you why you have to buy an insurance policy, why you have to buy basically a life insurance policy or medical insurance policy and all those. All of those are fundamentally set of events. There are a lot of local sponsorship that happens and all those. Next is online marketing. If you have seen, right, in various websites on the right hand corner or maybe somewhere, you will find that why don't you buy this insurance? Why don't you buy that insurance? All those recommendation systems will pop up, right? There'll be a lot of blogs, there'll be search engine optimization that would be done. So I'm talking about the digital presence. And how do you basically read this slide is that each and every set of way in which you generate the leads marks to the right set of question. It says, how do you promote products using referrals, right? Can we go on advertising route? Do events actually hold up? Now this slide is very much important for insurance companies because from this they will understand, okay, I did this marketing, but if you see, my entire revenue that I generated came from online marketing. So why can't I shut the other marketing fields which I'm using? Because it's just generating 2%, and I will put all the money that I'm putting on those, on referrals, advertising, and events, and entirely put it on marketing. I can do that, right? So these questions basically help you turn your insurance know-hows into actions, right? So basically, there is a spend analyzer. So whenever you try to do marketing, you will have different channels through which you will do marketing. But there might be certain channels, right, like social media, which will perform far better than other channels like banners or offline marketing and all those, or newspapers or something like that. You can shift your marketing budget from one channel to another channel, right? Now, these are the ways in which the insurance companies generate the leads. Right? Now you can basically go ahead and understand in each phase why, how it works, what does it do. Right? Next. So basically, what we had discussed entirely today is what kind of problems are there, how does insurance analytics. So now I want to tell you a small story before I end my. There are fundamentally three problems that everybody works on. First is insurance fraud. Second is how basically you will get customers for insurance policies. And third is once you get the customer, will the customer stay with you? Three problem statements most prevalent in insurance companies. First one, how machine learning or AI is used to solve the first problem. Once you know that you have got a policy base of maybe 50 lakh policies, and currently 50 lakh policies are live, that means there are few they were. What you will end up doing is you will take all the policies from day one your company got incorporated and create a data set. And what the data set will contain is it will contain the name of the person, the details of the person who has taken, did any claim happen on that insurance policy, who was the beneficiary, what is the location, and all those. Now, basis that, using machine learning, right? What you can do is you can identify for each and every policy what is the probability that this particular policy will end up being a claim. That means what I am trying to predict is who is the person who is going to die. That's right. Must be thinking, what am I trying to predict? Right? So if you see, if you are trying to or you are trying to predict a claim that will come in future, that means you are actually trying to predict if the person is going to die. Right? So that is the most, and if you work in these kind of problems, right, it has a lot of potential because you are saving a lot of money for the insurance companies. Right? That is the most important use I'm going to talk about now. Now, when you have this data set entirely available with you, what you can basically go ahead and do is use a classification algorithm to basically create an entire model that can predict whether a particular person is going to die in next 3 years or the insurance policy is going to get a claim. Right? But here, fundamentally, everyone thinks that the accuracy is important. No, accuracy is not very important. Why? Is because the end product on which you are trying to do the prediction is fundamentally having a lot of value. So even if you predict one policy correctly, you are saving 2 crore rupees for that particular company, right? So analytics in every use case does not require the accuracy to be high. This is a myth. Everyone says accuracy needs to be high, accuracy needs to be high. No. There are a lot of use cases where the accuracy doesn't really matter. For example, insurance analytics. It doesn't matter at all. Right? Now, you can use various algorithms to particularly solve that. But what I would request all of you is basically go online, try to understand different use cases, because the next sessions that I'm going to come with will have programming concepts, will have how to solve the actual problem. I'm telling you hands on. The reason initially we are not taking hands on is basically to make you equipped with what kind of use cases are available in the market and talk in general. Now, next sessions basically will be more practical. That means we will tell you maybe 3-4 days before of okay, you should basically go ahead and download this data set, and we will monitor how you are writing the code, right? All of that, or code, or maybe use a tool like SPSS to do that, right? So the further sessions that we are going to have after this would be very much focused on problem solving, how to read the data, how to solve the problem, how to define the problem basically, how to define the problem, how to create a problem definition framework, and finally we would be able to tell what is the accuracy, what is the impact that we gave, and all those. And I want all of you to include your students, your colleagues in these problem solving sessions, because this will be more a longer problem solving, because it's going to take like 2-3 hours easily for one session, right? I want all of you to be part of these particular sessions that are going to come in near future. Is my voice not clear? Sorry for the background noise. So basically what we're going to do ahead is we will send you a list of use cases that we're going to solve in near future, and I would request all of you for coming sessions. uh, I'll send you a list of softwares that you have to install in your system, and a list of links that you have to go through, so that they act as a prerequisite for your particular for different use case that you're having. Great, great, great. Sorry, there was some background noise that was there, which could not be avoided. Avoidable. It was not avoidable actually. Okay, so I would request all of you to basically next time when you come, get your laptops. I need you to have book and a pen, and we will basically do a brainstorming session of how to solve the problem. So I'll come up with a business problem, and I would request you to basically read through the business problem and give new ideas, and we will actually mimic how things happen in the corporate, how we do business problem solving or brainstorming, and then we will go ahead and solve that particular problem using Python, Excel, or any other tools that we have. So I will be telling you what tool, but I wanted some feedback from you of on the live session itself. I want a feedback from you. What do you typically expect in a problem solving session? Do you want to do it using any programming language? Are you interested more in understanding the problem? Or are you interested in seeing how exactly the output is given to the end client? There'll be some delay in the YouTube streaming, but I would request all of you to put your comments on the YouTube live chat, so that I can understand it very well. Great. Now I have a small surprise for you. Surprise is, how do we solve? So I wanted to know what you need. So basis that I wanted to showcase that. The small surprise is I have a case study with you for you. The case study is, how do we identify potential insurance buyers? And if you see this slide now, I see few of the pointers. Somebody has written end output to the client, programming output given to the client, understanding problems. I want you to see this particular slide now. Just go through this particular slide. You can see that this is the most crisp way that is given to the end client. You have the top one say top line says, predict whether a person will purchase client's insurance. So you are working for XYZ company, and your client is a leading insurance corporation. So for you, the problem statement is predict whether a person will purchase an insurance, client's insurance, as opposed to any other company's comparable insurance. So for example, you are working for XYZ company and you are basically trying to look for your client. Your client has like 5 6 policies. A client has a competitor as well. Now the competitor will have similar kind of policies. Now you need to define a way in such a way that you have to find who is going to be the person who will end up your client's insurance policy. So he or she should end up buying the client's insurance policy. Right? So on the left hand side, you can see I've written business challenge. What is the business challenge? So if you read through it, the business challenge is for the client taking advantage of existing customer base. That means the client wants to use existing customer base to sell his policies. Now tell me if a particular company has has a set of policies that they have. Let's say, for example, 5 6 different policies, and they have like 1,000+ customers. If you go ahead and try to sell to only to those customers, those 1,000 customers who have already taken product from you, will they end up buying it? No. So the biggest question is whom to target among the company's 1,000 set of customers, and you need to have a go-to-market strategy. That means you cannot always just churn around or go around your existing customers. You have to find new customers. So you need to have a go-to-market strategy. Using your best products, how do you go into the market and sell it, right? Current situation, the company has to approach all the 4,000 customers. Now, there are two problems that you have to define. Problem statement one is, out of those 4,000 potential customers, whom you really think would end up buying it. Second is, can you find out new customers who are out of these 4,000 customers? Out of means apart from these 4,000 customers, right? So that's the business challenge. And next, if you see, you will have discounts as well and conversion rate. That means if you are trying to basically sell a policy to your end customers, then you need to provide right set of discounts. You have to basically end up giving particular freebies or discounts so that your conversion rate becomes higher. So currently the conversion rate is lower. What do you mean by conversion rate? Conversion rate means if you're trying to sell an insurance policy to a customer, the customer ends up buying the product. Now you cannot call it customer before the particular person buys the insurance policy, but you can call the person as a lead. Okay, always a lead is converted into a customer, correct? And what was the solution? The solution was using data visualization and association rules to understand characteristics of it. So this is how we actually showcase. And what are the findings? The findings are lower education with income less than 30,000 and those who are married end up buying insurance. These are the patterns or the traits that we found out from the data set, right? So findings typically is more linked towards business analysis rather than core machine learning, but that is also very much important because that is how you're going to understand those patterns. What is the business outcome? Deep insight generation for extracting relevant post facto information. That means after the sales have happened, you are trying to understand what happened and use that for deeper insight assessment in your machine learning problem. See, what happens is whenever a use case comes, you require some historical data. Now, without historical data, doing it is more like a market research, right? So if you have historical data, you do some business analysis, try and understand that, okay, this is what must have happened, this is what has happened. And basis that, you give the learning to your machine learning algorithm so that it predicts right future, right? And the process that we have is input data set, there's a processing unit, there is an output, right? So how do we give the output to the end client? We basically send a report of how many people we said that would be potential customers and how many people ended up buying that particular policy. So all that report is going to be sent in next 2 weeks, right? Similarly, you can showcase insights of how sales are performing, what is happening, and all this. And also, you can see the trend change. That means if previously you got to know that those people who have higher income and higher education end up buying the policy, there might be a trend change. Now, the lower income people with a higher education or lower education, higher income people will end up buying the policy. So, those trend changes and analysis can also be given, correct? So, next is the reading material. So right now what I'm trying to showcase is basically all the reading material that is available, right? And for data science to be read, there is a very good book called First Principles with Python, Data Science from Scratch, First Principles with Python. This book is really very good and written in a very crisp fashion. So I would request all of you to basically share this with your friends as well, right? And also showcase certain key points within that, correct? So all of those things are fundamentally very important when you're trying to solve the problem. Now, all up to you for asking questions. Anyone has any questions, please ask on the chat and I'm going to answer all of those. Sonali, I will send you the link. So once this session is done, all of this session details are actually recorded. So you can basically go ahead and go through that. And if you want the key points or reading material links, I'll basically send that as well. Any questions, folks? Hope you liked the session. Please give the feedback so that we improve in the coming sessions. And I want you to basically come up with what is your requirement. What do you think you or your colleagues or your friends or your students would want from these sessions? I'm posting the link. Please click on this particular link to fill up the form for your certificates. Please do that at the earliest. Any questions, folks? Any questions that you have for me? Please do ask. For those who have come new on this, my name is Hemant and I work as a head of AI and machine learning at eClerx. eClerx is a 10,000 plus employee company in 7 different countries. Any questions for me? Please do ask. You can add me on LinkedIn as well. I have written my full name here. Any questions? Please ask.